do all kinds of fishing too, right?
Yeah, I like, my passion is...
What's your, so when we're talking, I'm just testing this, so
Yeah.
I want to see if it'll go past a couple minutes.
My passion as I got older was, you graduate through all the game fish classes, and, you start with calicos and bonito, barracuda, and then you start fishing for yellowtail, and you get that figured out. And then we had the albacore years and do albacore. And then for me, it was the next challenge was local striped marlin. I love marlin fishing. It's more of a hunt. There's more like the hunt is the challenge, is locating.
Don't they have
them.
the tournaments at the Balboa Anglers?
Yeah, the Masters and the Tuna Club has a bunch. But back in the 80s, 90s, all through 2000, they had huge billfish tournaments over at Catalina, and that was when I was with Pure Fishing. And it's more of a hunt than there's more hunting and visuals involved, and the challenge is locating the fish or the school marlin. They're not that difficult to catch, but just the hunt is the challenge.
So you're more into...
And now it's
locating.
Like swordfish. Yeah, now it's deep drop swordfish.
That's a whole nother thing,
that's
right?
a whole nother thing.
Did you start that when everyone was kind of doing it?
So we were fishing the deep drop technique way before anyone was trying it out here, but without any success. We were taking techniques from New Zealand, and my boat partner had been back there and caught swordfish. And we tried their rigging and their deployment for, I think, 5 or 6 years without a bite. And we were it was so frustrating. I mean, we knew it worked in New Zealand, but for some reason, we just couldn't crack the code here. And then we kind of hung it up and went back to finding an occasional surface finner that would bite. I mean, it's... The ratio to get a basking swordfish to bite is like you find 50, of those 50, 10 will bite and you'll hook one.
That's
crazy. Do the math. I mean, it's ridiculous. And but I started like, every other kid here, fishing the bays.
Where did you grow up?
Newport Beach.
Okay.
And, born there and went to Crotomar High School. And I was a little dock rat, and fishing the scrounger for spotted bay bass, and this thing called what was it called? It's called the one that's scampi. It was like the salty dog, and it looked like a shrimp. That was like the first plastic I remember, and caught a ton of spotties on that.
Now here's a question for you. How big were the spotties back then?
Nick, we were just talking about that yesterday because I'm writing a story for Pacific Coast Sport Fishing on bay fishing. And Wesley Brand and I went out yesterday, and it was really slow. Clear water, cold water. We had one bite in 2 hours. And during yesterday afternoon fishing, we were fishing hard, and Wesley's a good stick, and we had 2 bites. And we were just saying, what happened to the spotted bay bass fishing in Newport? I mean, we were reminiscing about the past where we'd go out on an afternoon tide and get, 20, 30 bites and catch, 15, 20 spotties. And you don't see that anymore. And we were talking about the dredging that has gone on in Newport Bay and a lot more pressure on that fishery. But it's really sad how things have changed so fast in Newport. The spotty fishing is extremely challenging in Newport now.
I even agree from my point of view, where I've only been doing it seriously for 5 years. When I started 5 years ago, we'd catch a lot.
Yeah, you get, every fourth cast you get a bump or hang a fish, and if you were on a good tide and knew some of the areas in Newport, you'd have no problem bending a rod and having a fun afternoon. It's not like that anymore. Yeah. And we have all this trick rigs, the A rigs and crankbaits and, all this, underspins and all this really cool stuff. And I mean, you fish hard to get a couple bites every tide, and I don't know what's going on. I assume the dredging did not help in Newport, because that was almost a year and a half. And, the sediment that got stirred up, the eelgrass, the beds, where there's clams and ghost shrimp and innkeeper worms, that all got, just, thrown upside down. And I think it's just going to take time to recover.
So the thing that happened to us when we were fishing the SBS was we made a bad decision. We were hitting all the docks right when you came out, all the way down by Crab Shack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, we're getting them. And I'm like, hey, dude, those mooring cans, when you come in and all that eelgrass, with the axe blade, I know it's going to work, let's go try. So we went and tried, and guess what happened? Tsunami hit.
Yeah, rain that day.
Whole fucking thing was done.
I was
Didn't
down.
get anything.
Yeah, I was working on my dad's boat at Basin Marine, and a couple of the SBS anglers came down that channel, and it's not a good channel for fishing. And we were talking to the guys, and I was telling them where to go, and a lot of them were not familiar with Newport. And I was like, okay, go down to the Coast Guard station, try this bridge, try those pilings. And I mean, I was like, how was your day? And he's like, one bite. I was like, oh my gosh, horrible.
Everyone, and the guys that won were kind of took this. It wasn't the regular guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was,
yeah.
It was
just got lucky.
Yeah. Or they just had that, they found out the pattern.
Yeah.
But so now you're writing this article, what are you going to when this happens, what do you do?
Yeah. So it's going to be, I'm going to talk about what a dad or someone that is taking kids out, and you want to bend a rod, and what do you do in Newport Harbor if you have kids and you got they require lots of action, and if you're fishing spotties, it's sometimes hard to have that constant action. So we're gonna mix it up and talk about bringing some natural bait on the boat, and try for croakers and corabina and halibut. We had 2 bites yesterday trolling those Yuzuri deep diving crystal minnows, and that was the best technique. But that keeps the kids entertained. The yellowfin croaker will eat them, sand bass, spotted bay bass, halibut. We had a decent, almost illegal halibut. And so I'm going to talk about, how to plan your day and keep the kids entertained, and at least, get some bites.
No, it makes sense. And that's a hard one. Even with me, it's like I'm taking my sons out more. My middle son's a little more interested because he's 11, 12, and he has a buddy at school that actually is into fishing. So we went out, and this is funny. We went out, we sculpin fishing. He loses one. I have a video up on Instagram, and then we run into a school of mackerel, and they act like it was yellowfin.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, just keep casting. I'm like, dude, these are nuts. They're like this big. They're like, it's fun. I'm like, all right.
That's getting kids started. Yeah. Go out when we have during the billfish season. I'll invite the kids on my street to go out and help catch bait. They have a great time. The parents call me after, and they're like, my kid had so much fun catching mackerel. And I'm like, this is a great system. You got 3 or 4 kids, you're loading up, bait for a billfish trip, and they're having a blast. And
that's missing. And I feel like sometimes you just got to go out and get bit more than you got to go out and catch a big fish.
Yeah. And, as far as getting bit, this time of year, I've noticed that you got to go old school. Like Jimmy Decker years ago when Berkeley came out with the gulp shrimp, and you put that gulp shrimp on a powder coated lead head, like Mike Gardner style. Yeah. And you just walk it along the bottom, you're going to catch something. I mean, it's not the most, the experienced anglers don't like the slowness of it, because you're almost like dead sticking the bait, and you're hopping it along the pilings, but you're going to get a bite.
But even if you're an experienced angler, if I'm trying to either A, win a tournament, Our B, catch a lot of
gulp, the 3-inch gulp shrimp, nuclear chicken, or new penny on a little, I call them Mike Gardner 1/4 ounce powder coated orange leadhead. You're gonna get some bites. The tube baits, the hookup baits, all
those
that
work really good too as well.
Yeah, and you're just slow crawling it along the bottom. And if you're gonna go strictly artificials, that would be a way to get kids, really fired up in the bay, because they can't go wrong. You just tell them to cast it out, let it sit to the bottom. While you're working on another kid, you look over and he's bent. It just, there's not a lot of action. You just twitch it along the bottom and rig them up all with that 3-inch gulp shrimp or a hookup bait.
And they work.
They're going to catch fish. Maybe not the biggest, but they're going to get some bites. And, I see a lot of kids, the wharf rats or the dock rats. When I'm working on my boat, they're walking the docks, and they have the spinner baits, crank baits, all that stuff. And when we're working on our boat, occasionally we'll just grab mussels off the dock and throw it out, put it in the rod holder, get back to boat work, and I look over and I see that spinning rod, singing, and it's always something good. The bass will eat it. We've gotten croakers, corabina. And so if you don't always have to go with artificials, you can, fish mussels, ghost shrimp, innkeeper worms. And Balboa Angling Club has their big lily call tournament.
Okay.
And it's fourth weekend in April. It's a super fun 2-day tournament, all species, 4-pound test line. In Newport Bay.
I actually hit up Dave. Is it Dave Edmonton?
Yeah. And he's on the board. Yeah.
And I hit him up to come on and talk about Balboa Angling
Club. Yeah. It's a super fun tournament, open to the public. We always rally a bunch of kids, get out there, and it's croaker, corabina, bass, halibut, and it's all 4-pound.
Is it on, you could have a boat as well too?
You can fish off a dock, you can fish on a boat, you can it's from the jetty entrance all the way back, the whole entire Newport Bay where it's legal to fish. You can't go under Pacific Coast Highway, but the whole bay, and it's a 2-day event open to the public, and you can just go on balboaanglingclub.org and sign up.
I signed up for one coming up in Marina Del Rey with my son. I'm not fishing. I'm going to let my son do it, but I'd love to do this and take both of my kids.
Yeah.
It's a little guy just driving around with them.
It's a kid-friendly event, and on the awards banquet, they do burgers, hot dogs, and there's tons of sponsors, and they do a raffle. Every angler walks away with something.
That's cool.
And that 4-pound, it's IGFA 4-pound. So you're not fishing big game 4-pound or Iserline 4-pound. It's IGFA 4-pound. You just need 30 feet to be legal. So you could have any outfit, and then you just do a uni to uni with 30 feet of 4-pound to your, most people are using the, sliding egg sinker rig, and you tie your swivel on, put your egg sinker, or you can fish a leader with an artificial, and that levels the playing field. I
think 4-pound is like, what about the guy?
It's like trout fish.
It is. What about the guy that float tubes in front of Crystal Cove? Doesn't he hold a lot of IGFAs?
Oh, there's a lot of Balboa Angling Club members that have tons of IGFA records, and they're out there a lot, and they fish hard, and the challenge for them is looking at the IGFA book and looking at line categories and species, and they go out and specifically fish for that record. And it's a personal challenge, and they're like taking it to the next level, light line. And
but the thing that always got me when we talk about the light line is that it calls for a certain amount. I didn't know that. That kind of changes the game a little bit. So at least you can, well, not in the kelp, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, bass, you have, depending on the line class, calico bass, you have, calico bass, you got seconds.
Yeah.
Fraction of a second to get it out of where he's living towards the boat. And if you don't, after your leader goes under that ledge or through kelp, I mean, whatever line you're fishing, you're done. Anyway, but no, it's the Balboa Angling Club. That tournament has turned into just a giant event, and everyone looks forward to it. It's a 48-hour tournament. You can fish all night if you want, and there's teams that specifically target like a certain category. Like you'll see the Corvina and Croaker guys out there all fishing, where those fish are, and then you'll see the bass guys, and they're targeting spotty, sand bass. And the neat thing about it is they have categories for spotties and sand bass. So it's not the biggest bass. They have a separate category for spotty, sand bass, calico bass, halibut, croaker, corvina.
And it's all on 4 pound as well.
All
too.
4 pound. Yeah. And it's 30 feet of your lap from your main line to your swivel or leader. You got to have 30 feet of IGFA 4 pound. And JD's big game tackle right there on the island, he loads up on IGFA line for the Lily Call tournament, and everyone brings their reels down. He'll do your little connection and get y'all rigged up, tell you where they're biting. So it's a fun event.
Yeah.
I fish it. Yeah.
I'm definitely looking to doing it now that I didn't know about it.
Yeah, or just come to the Words Banquet. It's super fun. Burgers, tons of industry people are there, and the awards are just great, ridiculous. I mean, they give out such cool stuff. All the sponsors come on board. Costa's going to sponsor it, and a lot of fun.
So back to fishing a little bit, since we ironed out everything and we're rolling good now. So when you moved, so let's go back to the spotty thing. So you're little. When did you venture out into the calico thing? And were you around when Seacrest was kind of catching the big ones?
Yeah. I was working for Pure Fishing, and one of my good friends also over at AFCO at that time was Greg Stotesbury.
He's been on the podcast.
Yeah. So him and Ben, and they were charging hard on calicos. I came up through the ranks just on what my dad liked to fish for, and he's a fisherman. And when I was a young kid, he had a 24-foot little open with an outboard, and our thing on the weekends was to go out for bonito, and that was our deal. We'd go out, and there was a ton of bonita back then, and we would troll those Yankee jigs, the chrome head with the feathers, and we didn't have to go too far. A couple miles out, you put them out, and a bonita, when you're 7, 8 years old, you're in for a fight. And
if we see him, I'm gonna fish him. It's fun.
So my dad wasn't much of a calico bass fisherman. We would do the bonito in the spring, and then there was really good kelp patty fishing for yellowtail. And on warm water years, we'd see Dorado and yellowfin local. I mean, the 14-mile mag 267, we'd go out there. So if it was a normal year, we'd catch yellowtail. So that was like the next jump in game fish. And then back when I was growing up, it was albacore. So you pretty much let your fireworks off 4th of July, and then you go albacore fishing. And that would go on till like end of August. And then we'd start, my dad would be like, let's go marlin fishing. And so that was what I was taught, and that's how I got into those species. And then, as I got older, the calico bass thing was a lot of fun in the spring, and waiting for the pelagics to show up. So I love fishing with like Decker and Eric and seeing those guys work, and it's the red carpet treatment. They bring all the gear. I'm like, Decker, just give me what I should be using. And that's their obsession. And I just go along and go, okay, what am I fishing here? Fish this. Okay.
Do you remember going your first time to San Clemente Island?
Yeah. That island, it's a challenging island to fish, especially on the front side. And you get around the back, and as I got older, we'd start venturing around the corner and up on that west end, West Cove area, and the boilers, outside Pyramid and up the back. That was fun. And but as I'm fishing calicos, I always got an eye to the outside and like, I bet there's a marlin out there. I bet there's a tuna. But I love doing it in the spring. And, I love sea bass fishing. May and June, love to go to the islands, fish sea bass. And but the calico bass thing, it's so relaxing. And the thing I like about it is you're using your gear all day. I mean, you're fishing your gear. You're trying out your new reel.
Active,
you're trying out your new. I mean, when we go marlin fishing or tuna fishing, there's so much hunt involved, and just driving the boat around looking for schools. You don't get to fish your tackle as much as you do when you're calico fishing. So it's a good mix and break from the offshore stuff.
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, when they're planning a trip on my boat, I'm like, do you want to catch a ton of fish and, throw baits all day, swim baits, calicos, maybe a yellowtail? Or do you want to go offshore and look for tuna or billfish? And we might have a couple shots a day or no shots. And they'll think about it and be like, oh, let's go calico bass.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's a hard one. But so when you started going out, were you still fishing your dad's boat when you started getting more into like the bigger sport fish as well? Yeah.
So we had a boat up until I was about 19. My dad, had, he'd upgrade a boat every like 5 years. And when I was in high school, we had a 38 Bertram called the Escape. Yeah, beautiful boat. And then the kids, my younger brother and I were his crew. And we were, he loved albacore fish, and we'd fish the islands, anchovies for bait, and calicos, small yellowtail, bonito, barracuda. And then when we went off to school, went off to college, my dad's like, my crew's gone. So he sold the boat, and I came back. I went to school in Colorado, and it was painful missing, about 9 months of the year being in the...
Were you trout fishing up that way?
Every chance I could. Yeah, I got into fly fishing and, rainbows and cutthroats and browns. But I was just, this is back before the internet, back before cell phones. So the only reports I got were my parents would send me the weekly copies of Western Outdoor News, and I would get caught up, or then this is going to age me. I'd put quarters in the payphone on Sundays and call home and find out what was going on. And we were home in the summer, but we'd have to go back for the fall semester and end of August, and you just miss the prime offshore season. But I stayed 1 year after Colorado in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I was thought I was going to be happy there, but my gills dried out. I had to get back to the beach.
Right.
But no, from ice fishing to fly fishing, fishing browns, and it was a lot of fun, but I have to be by the ocean. Yeah. Get back.
So
here.
then you came back.
So I came
because we kind of messed this up in the beginning. Like, you guys, we were trying to do this. I got all this new equipment.
Yeah,
and we need to get over back to the original part of the story.
So my first job right out of Colorado I was the tackle shop manager at Bisbee's Big Game Sport headquarters. It was Bob Bisbee's Senior's tackle store behind the fuel dock on Balboa Island, and I had worked for Bob on the fuel dock when I was like 16, 17. And then when I was in college, I actually ran the Newport bait barge.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, for
That's
5
cool.
summers. I was selling bait, ran the barge, and that was so much fun. I mean, what a job. You're on the water, you're super busy from like 4 a.m. till like 8:39, and then you're fishing out like that brown bait in the receiver and casting out, and we caught all sorts of, the sand bass would just be clouds under the bait barge.
Did you ever get any exotics when you were there?
So the biggest or the most memorable catch was a 26-pound halibut, and that was on a brown bait. The Pamela Rose came in, dropped off a load of anchovies, and the brown baits were the hot bait for big sand bass and halibut. And I found just a perfect brown bait, and the herring back then, and threw it out. Was working the dock, and the rod got bent, and 26-pound halibut.
That's huge.
Yeah.
What size line did you have?
I think I was fishing this is again going to age me. It was a Penn Squitter with a plastic spool on a Sabre 196.7.
Wow.
It was like 15-pound pink Andy. That was the hot deal back then. Yeah.
That's scary.
Squitter. Yeah. Squitter. And it was mostly just clouds and clouds and clouds of sand bass under the receiver. I mean, all summer long. That was the era when you could, from May, like Memorial Day, to almost Labor Day, July being the peak, the boats out of Newport, the half-day boats, 3/4, full day, you could go up to the Huntington Beach Flats and catch a limit of sand bass and maybe some small yellowtail, bonito, barracuda, and that went on for just years, decades.
Do you have any clue what changed? You think it was the squid?
That could be a part of it. It's something, I think it's multiple factors that all happen over the period of time. Back then it was 10 fish limit for sand bass. And when you get 1,000 anglers out there every day catching, 10 sand bass every day, I mean, that we put some hurt on that fishery, and they're spawning. So that was maybe a part of it. Those Humboldt squid certainly could have been a part of it. Gill net pressure below the border. If you read up on sand bass migrations, they move in and out of the bays and up and down the coast. And there was a lot of gill net pressure down in Mexico that maybe affected it. But man, back in the days, if you had a silver flake Scampi 104 with a little strip of squid, you're going to get a ton of sand bass. And It was basically just drop it straight down, get up on the fleet, anchor up, and, the clouds would form under the boat, and you just cast it out, drop it down. That's what we used, silver flake scampis with a little strip of squid, and we'd chum the anchovies, and, bonito, small yellowtail would come around the boat. But, I mean, every single boat.
The sand bass thing really... I mean, I love fishing sand bass. I like fishing anything that pulls, but I love calico sand bass spotties. That's the thing. And I'm like, man, I wish I could have been around fishing when that was around. I heard it was just so good.
It was incredible. I mean, that you could twilight fish. You could fish at night. There were summer nights in July, and if the moon leading up to the full moon, and as wide open as you can imagine. And it was great for the industry because kids would go out and have so much fun, catch so many fish. And we weren't big on the sand bass as far as harvesting them. We would keep a few, but we would just like to catch them, let them go. And I'll never forget, I was on the Western Pride, and the boat came in to pick up bait, and I was closing down, and Bobby Zell was like, "Hey, you want to go fishing?" I'm like, "Sure." And I just jumped off the barge onto the Western Pride, and it was a twilight trip, and we went up to the flats, bass were biting full speed. And just before we left, there was some big grumpy sand bass coming over the rail, and there was a nice jackpot involved. And this guy caught it had to be, I'm going to call it 14-inch juvenile bonito, a small bonito. And he landed, I was up on the bow, I was not a paid passenger, so I was up on the bow throwing scampies, and he catches that bonito, and he grabs a second outfit. He had it all rigged up, a torpedo sinker dropper loop, like a 5/0 hook. He pinned that bonito on, sent it down, and I was like, you're not going to catch anything. Sure enough, he is doubled over. I mean, rod tip in the water, like rail rod fishing, just pin. And I think that sand bass went like 12 pounds, and it ate a whole bonito. And instant, as soon as it hit the bottom, he put it in gear. And I was thinking maybe black sea bass or something, and he won the jackpot, paid for his trip.
I'm such a calico dork where I'm always looking at who had the biggest on a lure, who had, I mean, and I compare him, to like, that's a big
it was a 14-inch bait, a live bonito, and he clipped the tail fin, sent it down, and he was bit instantly. And this thing came up, giant mouth, and they put it on the jackpot scale, and there was no contest. They had some like 6-7 pounders, but that thing just was a monster. And he released it.
That's cool.
Yeah, he released it.
Did he need to get fizzed or anything? Or
no, he just we had like 5 minutes to go, and he landed it, walked it back. They put it, all the jackpot guys were standing there, and it was just no contest. And he goes, I want to release it, and threw it back in. And
it's cool to see that every once in a while.
Yeah, and that was back in the 80s, so,
Which probably wouldn't have been happening.
No. There was, the deckhands were making good money filleting fish, and it was 10 fish limits, and it was very consistent all summer long for sand bass and a lot of other stuff. I mean, the Huntington Flats had the big barracuda runs. We'd see, small yellowtail up there. And sometimes, before the 80s, there was a decent fishery of, white sea bass. And some of the schools were so massive that the purse seiners out of Pedro used to go out there with airplanes and wrap the schools of sea bass up on the flats. And it certainly is not like that today, but it would be just unbelievable if that fishery came back, because it does so much good for the industry and getting kids fishing. When
sand bass is something that, you put a kid on. I put my son, I have a picture. Let's see over here. Right here. He's like just a little calico. And I mean, he's like, even when we caught the sculpin was not big.
Yeah.
It was maybe 2 pounds, but he's like, I can't even reel it. It was just so deep. We're eyesers. And it's so way down there. So,
I think they're, I haven't been out for sand bass this winter, but I follow the reports, and it looks like it's that twilight, a jig head with a strip of squid right in the rocks, and just, heavy gear, and they're getting some nice ones. But February for me is, start of the shows and boat work and just getting all the gear ready for the season. And
because you're all Marlins, you're the deal, right?
I do it all. I like to, fish yellowtail at Clemente, Catalina. I like fishing sea bass in the spring. And then all summer long, I like, anything that's biting, tuna, the bluefin. And we don't, our billfish program doesn't start till end of August. So,
okay.
And then we start targeting the swordfish on the deep drop gear in September, October, November,
October, right,
December. So there's a pattern, but you still got to have all your gear ready, and the shows are a great time to, get your rods and reels and line and hooks. And as everyone knows if you see something you need at the tackle store, you need to buy it right now because you might.
Especially with COVID, right?
Yeah, you might be waiting for that stuff. Yeah, I know. I think this Bill show, Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival, the following next week, I think there's going to be a lot of people there with shopping lists going, hey, I'm ready to buy. I want to stock up now.
No, I agree. Even trying to get reels anywhere right now is like pulling teeth.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to when you were done with school, came back down.
So I came, my first job again was working for Bob Bisbee Sr., and that was like 89 or 1990, and I was managing the tackle store, and that was a unique shop because it's on the water, and that was the era that Pacifica boats were being built in Costa Mesa. And whenever they build a brand new Pacifica, they'd launch it in the back bay on a flatbed, the 36, mostly the 44 footers.
What was it? So
it's a sport fishing boat. Yeah,
kind of break it down
Flybridge.
Okay.
Their best selling model is the classic, the 44 footer, and West Coast lines built for bill fishing, albacore fishing. Big cockpits, flybridge, walk around, and these boats would come out on tugs. Fuel tanks are empty, and the tug would bring them to the fuel dock. Bisbee's back in the days, they'd tie it up. Then the owner would walk to the tackle shop in the back, and Bob Bisbee would be with them, and he'd be like, "Hey, Bob, meet Nick. He just bought a 44 Pacifica," and back then, there were two color schemes for the Pacifica. It was either navy and light blue stripes on the flybridge or brown and orange. That was the color. You either got one brown and orange or blue and light blue. We were working with Sabre back in those days, and we had a full from 8-pound to 130-pound, all the rods wrapped in blue, light blue and navy blue, and brown and orange. And Bob would say, "Bob, Nick just bought this 44 Pacifica. It's navy and light blue. And he's going to Cabo. He's going to fish albacore and then marlin. And then he's going to Cabo. So he needs his boat set up." And we would start with the albacore gear. Back then it was like the 196.7. So 4 of those, and then we need trollers, roller guides. Back then it was a Penn Senator 6.0 or an International.
Okay.
And they'd be like, "Oh, and then I'm going to Cabo. Okay, so we need blue marlin gear."
So you guys would kill
580s, yeah. And we would load, and then he'd be like, "Hey, I need lures." We would go to the rack, 7-strand Zucker, and just 50 lures. "Oh, I need hooks." Go to Mustad, owner.
You had everything.
And I was just loading these yachts up, and then I would get invites to go. I mean, they were like, "Bob, you took care of us on tackle. Do you want to go to Cabo?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so when Bob moved off the island and they didn't have the lease anymore on the fuel dock, that's when I switched jobs and got into the preening industry.
Okay.
And I did it for 4 years. I was miserable at the end. I mean, I was a sales rep, and it was for a young guy, I was making good money, but there was just no passion. And the order that changed my life was Patty. It was the Patty Dive Certification Company. I had been calling on them for 2 years to get their membership printing with an integrated card. After 2 years of calling on them, I finally got the order. And it came through on a fax, which is just crazy. And the assistant pulled it out, and she was like dancing. It was a huge order. And there was nothing there. I was like, whatever. We got the order, and she goes, "Bob, you need to get out of this business. you're unplugged.
So you pretty much made like an actual like life change at that time.
Yeah, it was that patty order.
Okay.
I finally got it. And there was just, you'd think you'd be like celebrating and, drinking Coors Light back then or what. And then there
You
was
want another
just,
beer? You good?
I'm good right now, but soon coming. And then, so there was just no passion. And then my friend Bill Buchanan, his family had 7-Strand, the lure and wire company up in Long Beach, and he was a friend, and I met with him, and they needed some help on the West Coast because they were coming into, when I was at Bisbee's, his rep was coming into Bisbee's to sell 7-Strand, and I always took care of him, and I loved the 7-Strand brand, and I would just load up the store with 7-Strand, the tuna clones, and all the the Kona clone marlin lures, and so they liked how I was supporting their brand and the customers, and he offered me a job at 7-Strand, and I was a rep, and we had the whole West Coast, and I did that for, I want to say 3 years, and then Pure Fishing bought 7-Strand. And then Bill was able to get me a marketing job at Pure Fishing. And so I went.
Did you go into school for marketing, or did you just
No,
come
I was economics, and my senior year I did an intern with Merrill Lynch and hated it. It was miserable. It was, I thought I would be interested in that, and stocks and stock market, I just had no interest in it. And I didn't like the pressure sale. It was, I saw a lot of stuff go down that I wasn't didn't want to be a part of as far as the stock market goes. And so I was just kind of lost, didn't have a compass bearing on where to go. And then, so I went into the fishing industry, started with 7-Strand, and then Pure Fishing by fate bought 7-Strand. And then I was with them for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 12 years. And it was all the West Coast. And I loved it. I just love educating anglers on catching more fish, seeing the industry grow. Just, I want to see anglers, with the right gear to have a good time. And I'm so passionate about the sport. So I'm excited to wake up every day and go to work and, talk fishing like we're doing right now. And just, and then there was the opportunity at Costa. Costa was founded back in Florida, Daytona Beach, and that's where they're based out of. And they have a huge market share in the Southeast, where they 35 years, and that's where they've grown. And they heard that I was going to be available on the West Coast, and Costa really wanted to make some inroads on the West Coast, but they don't know California. They don't know the market. I mean, it's a whole different world than Florida. So we talked at the ICAST show, and I got offered the job, and that was almost 4 years ago to the date, and I'm having fun. I love, continuing in in industry. I've got one brand that I'm representing.
It's Costa. A little easier, right?
Well, when I was at Pure Fishing, it's like having 10 kids, and some are getting straight A's, some are in detention, some are getting C's and B's. One is been kicked out of school. There's a lot going on, and but I no regrets. I mean, Pure Fishing and the friends that I met, and bringing a lot of the pros on board during that era are still close friends, and now most of them are on the Costa Pro team, and it's a family. The industry is like one big family, and I've just told these kids like, hey, you're going to be working for a long time. You better do something that you like to do, because
this is the truth. This is the truth. I told my son the same thing. We were talking, and he does drum line, and I'm like, your grades are crap, buddy. We both know that. You're just like me. You hate school. Think about like welding or like something like that. It works great,
trade.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, trade, there's nothing wrong with a trade. It's missing from kids these days. They don't want to do a trade.
They don't want to do trades. And there's so many opportunities. I mean, if I was a kid and I knew how to like work on a diesel engine, or I was an electrician or something. I mean, you can make a great living.
Yeah.
And those trades are the kids aren't doing it. And another thing that is frustrating for me is working with some of the younger kids, even at Costa in the last 4 or 5 years, is these interns or like part-time help at shows. One,
you're going to make me laugh my ass off because I know exactly what you're saying.
One, they don't answer their phones. Never. You will never get a live voice. Their voicemail is full. If you do get through, you will get a text, back.
Yeah.
You will get a text back. And jobs, when I first started, say like, hey, can you take the vacuum and vacuum the carpet in our booth? The show's going to open. It's like they look at you like you're going to get reported for like abuse. And I'm like, this is like normal stuff. You're low man on the totem pole. You're an intern or a part-time guy. Grab the vacuum and start vacuuming. Take out the trash.
This comes to a question after you, since you do marketing. How has marketing changed with influencers? Because they aren't putting the time in maybe as a pro the same way. But you got to deal with those influencers because they're going to push your product.
Yeah, that's really true. And I like to just spend a lot of time with the younger anglers and just try to feel them out, like how they work and what they like. And like fishing with Wesley yesterday, I found out like he doesn't watch any fishing shows. He doesn't really listen. I'll be like, Wesley, I'm on Let's Talk Hookup. Okay, I'll plug in. Do you watch this show? Nope, don't watch much TV. He mentioned Yellowstone, and I'm like, but you look over between spots, he's just scrolling his phone. Every Instagram, like website, YouTube, and and he's just glued on his phone. I'm like, Wesley, you got to hit this piling. Puts it down, hits the piling. We make a move, grabs the phone, scroll, and I just see him. His finger is calloused, from scrolling. So
it's even hard to do that when you're like, I'm on my own marketing everything, so I gotta promote everything.
Yeah.
So my wife will be like, "Are you gonna get off your fucking phone yet?" And I'm like, "I gotta post this really quick and do it's." But with a kid, even my kid, I'm like, "Dude, are you gonna get off your phone?"
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's the age, but think about how much time you're wasting. He could have. I'm sure he's an amazing fisherman, but it could have been thinking about a different angle. Who knows? But I think it's just that generation, like you said, the work thing.
Yeah.
The work thing is when you're young. It's like I talk to a lot of guys that are deckhands, and I go, hey, they're older now, and they go, yeah, the ball busting thing was a different thing back in the day, like fine.
But we wouldn't question it. We would just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just like, oh, you want me to clean the bathroom? Okay, I'll do it. You want me to take out the trash? Yep, I'll do it. You want me to clean the windows of the store? I'll do it. And the kids these days, they look at you like...
Because they're taking it literally.
Yeah, why are you punishing me? I'm like, I'm not punishing you. It's your job description, Get to work. And last year, I had a funny story. I had a flat screen TV in the booth, and the remote batteries went out. 2 AA's. And we were at one last year. No, it was the year before because they didn't have the Fred Hall show last year. It was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It was that show in March, and I need batteries, and I had a part-time kid helping out, and we're paying him, for the day. I don't remember what the rate was, but he's doing well. And I said, hey, go get me 2 AA batteries. And he took off, and he sends me a text, and he's like, where do I get AA batteries? And I'm like, liquor store, market, grocery store. Just walk out of Fred Hall and just go to the first gas station. AA batteries. Sends me another text. What brand AA batteries? Oh my gosh. Just grab me a pack of AA. Next text. I don't have any money. Do you have a debit card? Yeah, but am I going to get paid back? I will give you the $3 for those batteries. And next text was, can I take a break for lunch? And I'm like, the show is starting at 1. Get your ass back over here. It was unbelievable. And back when I was a kid, no questions. I'd run to that store, grab the batteries, and run back. And it took it was a half an hour ordeal just to get 4 AA batteries.
I think it's the interactions with people, when you were young, though, there was no Instagram and there was no instant calling someone.
No cell phone.
Exactly.
No social media, no internet, nothing.
So you looked at magazines. You looked at
magazines,
TV.
Newspapers, TV, radio.
Yeah.
That was our, and we'd get our reports from, kids, if you can imagine this, used to play outside. Imagine that. They'd actually go outside and play.
Yeah.
And I would get the reports, in the playground or just in the neighborhood. My parents would be like, get out of the house, come back when the street lights are on. And we'd grab our skateboards and terrorize the neighborhood. And if someone went fishing, you'd get the report. That was it.
Yeah.
So,
I just think it's not there anymore. But marketing wise, I'm sure you got to deal differently with people now because it's kind of like the good old hey, this is what I do. These are the tournaments I did. This is the my winnings. Well, now it's hey, here's my followers. Here's my impressions. Here's my
what we're doing at Costa is they're using me as a soundboard to be legit for California. So we'll get images for a social media post and from pros or captains, guides, whoever, and they'll bounce it off of me. And I'm kind of okay, I got to verify that this is the right post for California. And if you don't live here, you just don't know. And it can be little things nope, that's not the shirt or hoodie guys wear, or nope, get rid of that spinning rod. We can't have that in the photo. Nope, that hat's not working, or it's gotta.
You know what's so funny? Someone posted something, and Jake Gyllenhaal is?
No.
Big actor. He was on. He's huge, and he's doing a photo shoot for Prada, and it shows him in the ocean, a Pacific Ocean on a Parker or something, and he's got a spinning rod, this light spinning rod.
Yeah.
And he's fully decked out, but he's got this spinning rod. That don't match.
Yeah. No. You gotta make it look like it's got to be legit, and you got to be plugged in with the Groms. And what's really cool with the Groms right now is Costa came out with this Untangled series, and the Untangled series, the frame is made 100% out of recycled fishing nets.
No way.
That we collect down in Chile. So down in Chile, there's a commercial purse seine fleet and the anchovies. And the nets over time, they're torn up and they're worn, and they have a shelf life. And eventually the commercial captains will just leave them on the beach because it's too costly to dispose of them. So they pile them up on the beach.
How big are these things?
Oh, God, they're giant, massive piles. I mean, as big as this room right here.
Oh, my gosh.
And they're old purse seine nets. And, they have a life cycle. And when they're done, they, put them on the beach, and it's too costly to dispose of them properly. So we were with some of the guys from Patagonia, and we started looking at these nets on the beach, and they took a sample of the nets, and they figured out how to break the net down into pellets. And then the pellets are melted, injection molded into a Costa frame.
Nice.
It's called the Untangled series. And the Groms love this story. They're so fired up that we took a fishing net, broke it down, made a Costa frame, everything. The logo, the metal logo on the side is recycled metal. The frame is 100% recycled fishing net. And then we put our Costa 580 technology lens in that frame. They love it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's like really showing, a lot of people might give back for a tax return or some shit. I feel like you guys actually
it's unlimited raw material for us down in Chile on the beach, and it's given the commercial crews a job in the off season to collect these nets and bring it to the factory where they break it down. So it's turned into this little, business down there, and they love what they're seeing. They're like, you're taking this old net that's been on, and it's a proud country. I mean, they don't want to see the nets on the beach, but it's too costly to dispose of them. So all of a sudden we're down there and we're picking up all these old nets and turn them into, Costa untangled sunglasses. And
so win-win.
It's a win-win. And it's, and the kids, some of the frames that we have in that series, Baffin, Pargo, they just love the look. It's got that West Coast, kind of like, beach lifestyle. And Wesley was wearing them yesterday. I was like, untangle. He's like, yeah, I loved it. So it's a good story, and that's we're gonna showcase this at the show.
Okay, PCS.
Yeah.
Great.
We're gonna have a booth, and come by, and
I will.
Show
I'm gonna be there too as well.
I'll show you the netting, and we have a little display. It shows the nets, and then to the pellets.
You know what I'm gonna do is, before we do the video, when I release this, is I'll come by and I'll take a quick video when we're talking about it, so I could insert it into the video and be like, hey, this is what they're using. It's kind of crazy,
Yeah. So that's been a big win with the kids, with the Groms, and it's the future of our sport. So we're doing everything to see that they have the right product for what they're doing. And I will say though, when you're young, you pretty much don't wear sunglasses. I mean, I didn't. I was just like,
I didn't wear them until I was like 25.
Yeah. So the kids, like, even out on my boat where I have tons of extra pairs of Costas for, passengers, and none of them are wearing sunglasses. And I'm like, it's bright bluebird day. And I'm like, how do you guys see? And they're like, oh, I'm fine.
It's because they don't want to look funny.
It's all about, the style, the flat bill cap, the black hoodie, and it's. And we're learning because we have some apparel coming out, and it's just hoodies and tech shirts. And I told some of the designers, I'm like, okay, we need 3 colors: black, navy, and gray. That's it. And they were laughing.
It's the truth. It's the truth. That's everyone's.
Give me 3 colors: black, navy, and gray, and we're good. And we don't do the light blues and all those pastel colors out here. So
that's one thing that the 2 things is those colors and spinning rods.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, have you gone back and fished Florida with the bait caster?
All, you know, it's such a trip when I'm back there, and whether it's inshore or offshore, they're so focused on spinning gear.
Have you ever asked them, like, why? Why are you doing this? Why?
You know, it's just like, it's like their grandfather started with spinning reels, and their dad started on spinning reels, and then the kids started, and that's how they grew up. And another thing I noticed too is their rod lengths are much shorter than what we see out here. I mean, a 6.5 foot spinning rod is pretty standard back there. And I'm just looking at this thing like, what do I do with this thing?
Or when you see them fish redfish with these little, I'm like, that's what your fish, these fish, do they fight hard?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and I'm sure they do, but just their rods look like nothing.
Yeah. I had we were doing a photo shoot for the catalog. Actually, this catalog that's right in front of me, it was over at Catalina on my boat. And we were, doing photo shoots of product, and we had some pros, some watermen, surfers, anglers on the boat, and we were doing shots for the catalog. And we were doing a dive shot, and I was anchored out. We were on the front side of Catalina, and we were doing some shots in the water, and the school yellowtail came through, and I had all the product guys from Daytona, Florida on the boat. And I grabbed my Alua, and a Tatty 45, and I freaking threw that thing out there, 3 cranks I was on, and they were just blown away. They were looking at this rod, what the hell?
Yeah, like, what is this contraption?
Yeah, and I had a second one in the rack, and I gave it, I'm like, the school's right there, throw. And he was so perplexed. He was just like, what do I do with this thing? And he had like he didn't connect. He just couldn't figure out that, 10-foot rod and the conventional reel thing. And he's like, do you got any spinning reels on the boat?
No.
I know, yeah. We actually have a set of 4 on the boat for clients that aren't really anglers, and it's my boat partner. He's in the moving business.
Okay.
And they're movers. And a lot of them, they just want to harvest some fish and for dinner. And we have a set of spinning outfits. And before that, it seemed like I would spend all morning just picking out backlashes. Here's a fresh one. Grab the next one. Pick out the backlash. All day, just picking out backlash. And we had a boat meeting and said, hey, we got to go spinning reels. Yeah. And they work fine. I mean, bass, barracuda, small yellowtail, even smaller yellowfin and bluefin.
Yeah.
We have, I think, 20 or 30 pound braid on it and a fluorocarbon top shot. And I mean, they catch everything on them. And we don't have to pick backlashes out all day.
That makes a big difference, right?
Even when they're throwing lures, artificial swim baits. If you have the spinning outfit, it's so much easier to entertain and, see them have a good day. And then sometimes end of the day, they'll be like, I want to use that one. I'm like, okay, no backlash. All the new conventional, the low profile bait casters are so nice.
Yeah. And you got the brakes.
Yeah.
That's with everything. It's pretty simple. Let's talk a little bit about Marlin stuff, because I don't know a lot about it. Maybe if you break down kind of like your tournament history, how you got into it, stuff like that.
Yeah. So working at Bisbee's back in the 80s, there was the Balboa Angling Club across the street or across the bay. And, the Balboa Angling Club would...
And it's the Bisbee's, like the big Bisbee's tournament, right?
Yeah.
So maybe could you explain that too, because there's people that...
Yeah. So they had... There's a combination of local tournaments for striped marlin here, and that was based out of either Catalina. They had the Gold Cup and the Drambuie and the Classic, and they were September tournaments. hundreds of boats. And there was a minimum weight. I believe it was like 165 pounds, big money. And I got into it because I was seeing all the customers at the tackle store in the fuel dock coming in, and it was just like electricity, like just so much excitement in the air. I mean, people are just fired up, kind of like the morning or the night before a bass tournament. There's just that great competitive excitement.
Everyone's feeling that you're going to get that bag.
Yeah, everyone's going to get that bag, and you got and that's how that it's exactly like that in the billfish community. And I started, they started inviting me to fish on their boats, and then when I was at Pure Fishing, we were sponsoring those events, both here at Catalina and down in Cabo. Bob Bisbee started the Bisbee Black and Blue Jackpot Tournament,
which is like one of the biggest.
It's the largest, payout billfish tournament in the world. And I was going down to that, either working with Bob or working, doing marketing for like Pure Fishing. When we were down there, it was Berkeley and Penn. Those were the two brands, and we were part of that tournament. And that is like, that excitement in Cabo on the big ones is a whole different level. And when, unfortunately, between the economy, the cost of fuel, and the fishery all going on the downside, the tournaments at Catalina, the money tournaments where you actually, competing for a prize check, that ended. And it was sad. It was, I want to say it was like early 2000s, like 05, 08 or something. And that big recession in 08.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And then it just tanked. It might have been right after that, but it's been a while. And so all those went away, but the clubs, the local fishing clubs from San Diego to Santa Barbara, those individual clubs still have release tournaments for striped marlin, and it's a lot of fun. You still get the excitement. Balboa Angling Club's biggest billfish tournament is the Masters, and that's second week in September, and I fish it every year. And it's just, as far as fishing goes, though, it's more of a hunt. You spend a lot of time like hunting for trying to locate the school of fish. Once you find them, then you're marlin fishing. But there's so much scouting and prospecting and trying to locate the school of fish.
Does electronics play like huge into it?
Everything. Yeah. Mostly visuals. You're hopefully you got a couple guys on the bridge and gyro binoculars, scanning the surface of the water for signs of billfish, bait fish, bird life, and then you have another couple guys staring at the trolling pattern for, a fish that comes up in the pattern, and then you're going to drop a live bait and switch. It's going to come up on a lure, drop a bait back. But there's days where you can go all day and not see a fish.
So since it's more hunting, and you're saying you hunt for the fish, is there more of is it a condition-based thing or more of like
all
them?
Conditions?
Okay.
Yeah, all you're studying, the temperature charts, the color charts, the currents, the signs, and really trying to figure out. That's the challenge. But I just like looking at the scanning the ocean for signs. I mean, it's amazing what you see out there. And if you're in binoculars or gyros all day, you're going to find stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see without them. And that's what I like. I just like looking and then just, it's relaxing to me. There's less boats around, and you can just kind of,
That's one thing that it doesn't seem like it's changed with pressure, like the bluefin fishery or the yellowfin. Has that changed for you at all? How more people want to do it, or it's just that core?
So what's happened with the billfish community is, ever since these bluefin showed up back in 2015, we had epic fishing up at the Channel Islands. And the bluefin were south and east of where we were, but the marlin bite up at the Channel Islands 15 and 16 was just off the charts. I mean, it was 5, 7, 10 fish days. And then after that second year and the bluefin cycle really got going, it was like striped marlin do not like to feed and hang out with bluefin. Mm-hmm. And who knows, but we have not had a good striped marlin bite since these bluefin
2016
yeah,
when people
yeah.
say okay.
I mean, just last week I'm on the board of directors for Balboa Angling Club, and we have our awards banquet coming up. The high boat for most billfish releases was 3.
What was
for
it?
The year?
What was it? Say like 6 years ago.
Usually that number is 30 to almost 50 a season.
So it's gone down
to 3 for the year.
Bad.
Yeah, there were 2 boats that had 3, and I'm like, a lot of trips. A great trip back in the days was 3 fish. If 1 a day was good, 2 a day is really good, 3 a day or 3 for the trip, you're rocking.
Yeah.
And the two boats had 3 fish for the year. So, and the kids, there's not a lot of action when you're bill fishing. So their attention span for action is is nothing. And so we're seeing so few, like the older crews, the older captains, they're aging out. They're just, they're retiring, and they don't have the energy to go out and charge like they do. So we're seeing like an end of an era for the billfish. It's really sad. In California. We're seeing an end of an era. And
do you think it might not come back until the bluefin leave?
If I had to guess, it really seems like, after all these years with the bluefin around and the striped marlin have not been where they should be, because there's bluefin there. It might go on like that. But what's interesting is you look back at some of the old Avalon Tuna Club books in the 20s and 30s and read the reports. They had epic bluefin fishery in, end of May, June, July, August, and then they have really good striped marlin fishing in the fall, end of August, September, October, and that's not happening now.
You think it about be climate change stuff now, huh?
This cycle that we're going, I mean, the good old days are now.
Right?
The good old days are now, and I just finished reading an old Tuna Club book. They talked about, the catches back in the 30s, and it's nothing in comparison to what they're catching now. And so the good old days we thought were back then, but it's actually right now. Mind you, though, they're fishing bamboo rods, linen line, and a knuckle buster reel where the handle spins backwards when the line's going out. Yeah, so
so you're your own drag on those, huh?
Yeah, so we're I think this year we'll, my boat partners like to fish bluefin, and starting in June, July, August, and if there's billfish around, we always do the Masters, but if there's not billfish around, the Costa diesel, you don't want to go out there and burn 100 gallons and not have a shot at.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so we're you gotta have a network of friends that also like to fish marlin in the fall and work together and try to locate these fish. Otherwise, we're going tuna fishing.
Well, hopefully something changes in that, they come back and...
But, the kids are so fired up on this bluefin. I mean,
cool.
More power to them. They love it. They're just, not just kids. I mean, every age group is so excited for this bluefin stuff.
I still haven't got one yet.
Well,
I got my yellowfin.
Yeah.
I haven't got my bluefin.
Yeah, we'll get you out on Prospector and get you a bluefin. Yeah. It's work, though. They don't come easy.
Oh, I even just fishing... I know people hear this 100 times. I've gone out with Dwayne before, and he's like, "Hey, Nick,
they don't jump in the boat.
This ain't fucking calico, buddy." I said, "You're right. You're right."
Yeah, no, it's and it's funny. Like today, there's you have social media, and my friends out of state, especially in Texas, that I stay in contact with, and they come out. They'll send me a text and they're like, "Bob, bluefin are biting," and I'm like, okay, where did you get that report? I saw it on Instagram. Okay, how many boats that went out on Saturday posted that we fished all day and caught nothing? 0.
Mm-hmm.
How many? You're only seeing the people that caught.
Yes.
And they're like, I got a bluefin. And so my buddy in Texas thinks they're jumping in the boat. And I'm like, Brett, you're only seeing what is caught. You're not seeing the hundreds of boats out there that struggle. Because no one will, I'm guilty. I don't go post, fish, all day, Clemente, burned 100 gallons, caught nothing, upside down smile face, emoji with a teardrop. No one does that.
No.
You don't want to see that.
No.
It's, a sad pose.
Yeah.
You worked all day and
or people will trick you and put up some old shit.
Yeah. So the social media is very misleading, and every year I tell my friends, even friends that aren't so much fishermen, like my neighbors or friends I have, but they love to fish, but they're not really plugged in. They'll send me these, they'll screenshot a post and they'll send it to me, Bob, the bluefin are biting. And I'm like, okay, here's what you're seeing. One guy got a bluefin and he put it up and it broke the internet, as Decker would say. And so, you gotta put your time in.
Time on the water.
Time
I think that's
on the
one
water.
thing that's been said over and over.
Time on the water, and you got to be prepared. You don't want to make sure all your gear is right. And, the cost of these bluefin trips is getting outrageous. I mean, it's, a small, when the fish are on the beach, within 10, 20 miles, it's not bad. But when you're making overnight runs to Clemente and fishing, through the dark and coming home the next day, it's an expensive trip. And
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but I just tell people, you got to go. You got to get out there.
But then again, you're not going to get that fish if you don't try. You got to get that.
Yeah, I had my buddy back in Texas. He came out 2 years in a row and just had the worst luck, like pulled hook at color, weather, couldn't buy a bite. And then on the third trip, we were on the Vegamon. He got a 218 pounder. And so
it all made it worth it.
And I'm like, Brett, just persistence, and he just kept coming out. He'd have a horrible trip, and he'd wait till next year, and he got a 218 on the Vegamon.
That's
we were
awesome.
Just like, he was so fired up. But I hope it sticks around. Everything's in a cycle, but we got to enjoy it while we can.
I agree. Let's plug where we can get your product, where people can see Costa stuff. Do you know your booth number yet?
We are. Bill just showed me the layout. We're in the building where the seminar stage is. I want to say we're in the 800 row.
Okay.
And if I'm looking out, it's right down from the seminar stage.
Okay. Great.
And It was like, I want to say like 836. If that, I'm pretty sure my memory's just jogging. I think it's 836, 837, just down from the seminar booth. And we have a couple retailers there that are going to be selling Costa, Turner's, Island Tackle. We have a gift with purchase. So after if you pick up your Costas, you come to our booth, and we're going to be handing out stickers and Costa cups, and it's a great time to come to the booth, try on a pair of Costas before you buy them. Yeah. That's what I tell everyone. Do not buy them online, unless you're just, what you like, or you have a pair and the frame and you're just reordering. You got to try them on, because everyone has a different face.
That's the truth. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you have a fat head like me, the Diegos are the best.
Diego, yeah, ever. We're going to get you set up with some Diegos.
I love them. And that's one thing I've always talked about is bigger guys, bigger heads. And I've had like 4 or 5 guys who have big heads, and they go, I can't find any glasses. Yeah. I think Eric gave me a pair of some different ones too that fit really good.
Tuna Alley, Permit. Tuna Alley and Permit are big head guys too.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I hear it all the time. They're like, Bob, I was on costadelmar.com. I saw this pair that I thought looked cool. I ordered them, took them out, and then they're pressing against my temples, and you get a headache. It doesn't happen the first hour, but if you're out all day, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got a headache because your temples are being squeezed. Yeah. Or another thing I see is they'll get a frame that cups their face too much, almost like goggles. You got to have some ventilation. You need a little gap for air to get in. I don't care what brand it is. If you have your sunglasses are just cupped on your face, you're going to get fog issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with all the new ventilation technology in our Pro Series, you got to have it so it fits your face. It's not too much tension on your temples, and then mostly the women, you got to look in the mirror and go, okay, I like how they look.
I look pretty.
Yeah. Well, it's a big thing out here in California. We're learning we do surveys at all our events, and we'll just survey the anglers, and we ask them, what kind of lens color do you go with? What kind of frames? And number one answer is I go with a gray glass lens because I like looking cool, rather than a mirrored lens.
I don't give a shit. I want to see fish.
A lot of people are very concerned what they look. And then we also learn that, if you're going to buy one pair of sunglasses, hopefully it's a Costa sunglass, most people go with a lifestyle frame, which is not a wrap. It's more kind of like what I'm wearing now.
Yeah, like
these
the
are slack
sides,
ties. Yeah, these are more of a lifestyle. You can wear them at the beach, driving your car. You can wear them out on the ocean, but they're not going to give you the coverage or the sun protection that you need. But we see a lot of people, hey, I just need one pair universal on the beach, in my car, when I'm out fishing, and they'll go with a lifestyle frame. Where some people they'll have 2 pairs. They'll have one for the boat, which is more of a wrap, and maybe a blue or a green mirror for more sun protection. And then they'll have another pair that they keep in their car or their house, and one pair for fishing, one pair for
I keep my my wife goes, you have your expensive glasses for fishing, and I have these throwaway ones.
Yeah.
I'm I don't care what I'm wearing during the day. When I'm fishing is when it really matters.
Yeah.
The expensive ones are for fishing. I give a crap about.
And you gotta take care of them. It's like mine are real.
But you guys have this cool case.
We give the case out when you buy them. And you have the spray.
When I got one, I got the spray.
Cleaning cloth. The spray. And I'm like, think of it as a reel or a rod, in that $200 price range.
It's a tool.
You got to take care of it, and when you're not using them, put them back in the case or set them down somewhere where they're not going to get scratched. And if you think like that, I mean, you'll
Yeah.
get several seasons out of them.
That's
I
the
was
truth.
going to say, we have a ladies line out now that is just rocking.
Did it just start coming out?
No, we've been working on it the last like 3 or 4 years, but the new ladies line, Water Woman, is really cool. We have a lot of, I call them like the aviator style.
Okay.
Loretto
Yeah,
is rocking right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have all sorts of new. There's some Untangled. Victoria is a good one in a lady's frame, and the women are so fun to work with because they need several pairs. They want this one.
And I'm sure they'll tell you exactly what they want.
They want this one for work, this one for, on the boat, and this one for going to a party. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay, let's do it. And then the husband will come over and go, what is going on? She's buying 3 pairs.
That's always
Okay.
good.
Well, happy wife, happy life.
That's
right?
what I say. That's what I say. Well, thank you again, Bob. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you at the show. And have a
I'm
couple
excited.
beers.
This was so much fun. We got to do this more often.
Yeah,
I
of
love the
course.
room,
Thank
and
you.
you're a true professional, and
I appreciate
had
it.
a
Bob.
good
Thank
time.
you.
Let's go fishing soon.
Well, of course.
Got to get that bluefin.
I will. Hopefully this year. Thank you.
Cheers.